So this morning we're going to talk about uh, economical breakfast. And breakfast is kind of an unusual meal for a lot of people because a lot of people, first of all, don't eat breakfast, which is really bad for you to do. Uh, if you break down the etymology of that word breakfast, it's literally break fast. So the idea of breakfast is you broke a fast. It was the first meal after fasting, which is what you do at nighttime. You'd have your dinner and you'd fast, and so it was literally breaking the fast. So it becomes important because you've been burning off all your food and energy all night while you sleep, and so you need to replenish now. So it's very important, and especially if you're involved in anything involving the cognitive abilities, like let's say you're a college student. It's really crucial to be successful to have breakfast before you go to class because it replenishes that, it restores the body, and it helps you think because it's really hard to concentrate or think if you're hungry. If your stomach's growling, you just can't focus. And that's why there's been this focus from the last administration, the Obamas, about providing free breakfast to public school students because they're aware of that connection too, that it's vitally important for success to have a good breakfast. So most people, when they think of breakfast, they think of cereal. That's the number one thing they think of, or oatmeal. They get their breakfast bars, or they'll go to McDonald's and get their Egg McMuffin, and that's all well and good, but a lot of that can be very expensive. Like Egg McMuffins, you get an Egg McMuffin meal every day, that's $5 or $6. And that adds up very fast. So if you do that, let's say you work 5 days a week, you're talking $30 a week. And if you're just a poor person that's working at a minimum wage job, that's 4 or 5 hours worth of work just in breakfast. So the idea is to make good breakfast that aren't very expensive. So today I'm going to make eggs. And I'm an eggs person because I have a condition where I have a vitamin K deficiency. So I get nosebleeds quite easily. And before they knew what vitamin K was, a suggestion from a relative who was a nurse was eat eggs. Because as you know, eggs have cholesterol and that thickens the blood. So in my condition, where I have thin blood, eggs are beneficial. And when I don't have eggs, then it's vitamin supplements, which I take anyway. But, it's a combination of things to make sure that things are okay. So they have some value, too, on that. So today we're going to do eggs. So my breakfast this morning is I have my cup of coffee. And coffee is an inexpensive thing to drink when you brew it at home. And I'm not talking don't do the K-cups. Because the K-cups are very expensive. And if you figured out how much it is per pound, you're talking about around the area of $50 per pound for coffee when you do buy K-cups, because it's a convenience thing. So if you can, the better idea is get yourself a Mr. Coffee. You can get the small ones, or if you drink a lot of coffee like we do, you get yourself a full one, and you make a pot of coffee, and it's pennies to do it that way. So I got my cup of coffee, and I'll drink 2 or 3 of these during the day. I got my juice, and this is 100% juice. This is apple juice is what I have today. Paid $1.67 for it, 100% juice. You don't want the cocktails, because the juice cocktails, if you read the content on them, they're about, some are 5% juice, some are 10% juice. If you're lucky, you may get 15% juice, and the rest of it is just basically Kool-Aid. So they really have no nutritional value, the juice cocktails, because whatever little bit of juice you get out of it is pretty much destroyed the value of that with all the extra sugars that they throw in there. So get 100% juice, Apple tends to be the cheapest of the juices, but shop around. So if you can find orange juice on sale, get it. But 100% juice. So there's my juice. And of course, bananas are a great fruit because they're not very expensive. So they're 55 cents a pound. So maybe 20 cents a banana. So we'll just say it's 25 cents for the banana. So that's a good way to do it. If you can get melons on sale, for example, the grocery stores, Kroger will have cantaloupe occasionally on sale for 99 cents. Well, you cut up a cantaloupe, you get 4 or 5 days out of a cantaloupe. So you cut it up, put it in a container, put it in a refrigerator, and that's good. So then you're getting a fruit. So you want to have your fruit. Fruit is good. Now, I avoid margarines because the dirty little secret about margarines is the science and chemistry behind margarines. They started out, they're the exact same chemical compound that you find in plastic pipe. So basically, when you're eating margarine, you're eating plastic. And during the Second World War, they figured out that some of the ingredients that they could use to make plastics, they could use to make artificial butter, basically. Because at least they had to have something because everything was rationed. So that's basically the genesis of margarine. So all those margarines and all that, yeah, they don't have all the fats like butters do, but you're eating plastic. So, and if I'm going to eat plastic, I might as well just go out and eat plastic. So I get real butter. See this one here. This is under $2 for this big old honking thing. Yeah, it's not as convenient. It's not your quarters or your eighths that we like to see where it's measured out and all that. And, to a lot of people, that's important. To me, I'm looking at cost efficiency. So it's not a huge deal. And then, of course, I'm going to have milk with my eggs. Milk is $1.99 a gallon right now. It varies depending on where you're at. But again, it's not very expensive. If you were to go and buy a pop or soda or Coke, depending on which part of the country you're in, you're talking at least $1, $1.50. So a gallon of milk is a good value. And it's good for you, too. And, of course, I got my eggs. And right now, these are on sale. These are mediums for $1.39. And there's different sizes of eggs, medium, large, jumbo, extra large. I try to stay towards the mediums. They're cheaper. And the way I make eggs, to me, it's not worth the extra 30, 40, 50 cents a dozen to get that little tiny extra bit of egg. So the only thing about the medium eggs is they're harder to break because the shells are smaller, and that goes with physics and surface area. So because the surface area is smaller, it's the same thickness of shell, but the area that it covers is smaller, the volume. So they're a little bit more challenging to break, but that's okay because then if you drop it, you're not wasting eggs. So this is going to be my breakfast this morning, and I'm eating well, and it's less than I go if I went up to McDonald's and got something there. Okay, so here I got my non-stick skillet here, and you see I've cut off a big chunk of that piece of butter. I like cooking in butter better than vegetable oil. It gives it flavor. It's great to cook in. You don't want to do too much, obviously, because that's not good for you, but enough to give it some flavor because it'll give your food a little bit more flavor. So when I cook my eggs, I always try and cook them in butter on there, and then I'll add my eggs, and then we'll begin. So hang on for just a second. So when I cook my eggs, I always make sure my butter is nice and melted, and then a lot of people, when they scramble eggs, they'll put it in a bowl and scramble it. I will actually crack it directly into the into the skillet. And the reason is, then you get a little more flavor because you get some of that yolk, you get some of the whites. It gives a little more variety of taste to do that. And so we've got 7 eggs. We're going to do 4 eggs today. 2 for me, 2 for the lovely Victoria, who normally doesn't eat eggs, but does eat my eggs because she says I do them so well. Okay, so you can see I've cracked my eggs, and they're looking sunny side up-ish, and we'll take care of that in just a second. And make sure when you deal with eggs, see, so I'm going to add some milk in here, and I just kind of guess on how much I need, and they'll make them nice and fluffy, is what it will do. And then we just start mixing. But see, what happens is because of the, see that I got little pieces of white, and that's good. It'll give it some flavor. And then I've got some pieces of yolk. So it's like taking a sunny side up egg and kind of scrambling them after they've already started cooking. And again, that gives you a little more flavor instead of this kind of this bland egg that all tastes the same. You get different parts of the egg, and you get the different flavors. The flavor of the yolk and the flavor of the white. So as you can see, we start to bubble, and we periodically stir. And so you can see, look at that. See, I got little pieces of yolk. See that little piece of yolk right there? There's another little piece of yolk. You'll see some pieces of white. So it's not your typical scrambled egg because it's got little bits of mix, little bits of white, little bits of yolk all mixed together. So that gives you actually different flavors in the same forkful of egg.
That's the Mount Silver one.
So you can see our eggs are getting pretty close to done. And, you know, there's still a little bit of liquid left to boil away, but that's okay. So now we'll add, we really only need 2 spices. This is pepper, see, and it's got a big P on the top. Makes it easy. Love to use pepper. And when you have pepper, I don't know if you can see this or not, but you'll see some little bits of rice inside my pepper shaker. That keeps it from coagulating. You know, pepper wants to clump up. The rice absorbs all the moisture and prevents that from happening. So your pepper will always come out free flowing. And of course, see, this one says S. So obviously that's the salt. And you know, if you're not on too much of a salt restricted diet, a little bit of salt is wonderful in bringing out the flavor of food. And those are like my 2 favorite spices to add to the food while it's preparing. And it just so enhances the flavor. So we're done with our eggs, and we plated the eggs with a couple pieces of toast. And you can see that's, you know, as our President Trump would say, that huge. That's a lot of egg, and that's just 2 small medium, the 2 medium eggs. But if you cook them right, see, it makes a lot more. So that's a good plateful of food here. So we're going to have our banana and our juice and our coffee. And so for a combined total of about $7, you know, the 2 of us are going to eat a very nice breakfast that's going to last us for 4 or 5 hours throughout the day. So $3.50 for a home-cooked meal made the way we like it. You can't beat that.